If it's not a good game or Catholic, who do you call? Why Pokematic?
Hi. I watched Mona Lisa Smile. Wow. What a terrible movie. From a technical aspect, it's a pretty competent movie. Lighting and camera work isn't bad. Acting serviceable. Pacing isn't too slow or too fast. Set design and costumes all match the period. It's all very, academic. Ironic considering this is a movie about postmodern art appreciation. And therein lies the crux of my hatred for this movie. You see, I don't really care much for the postmodern approach to art appreciation. To say that a solid blue canvas with a white stripe going down the middle is on the same level as Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, or that the stream of consciousness Johnny Got His Gun is on the same level as the wordsmith William Shakespeare, because both of them are art, well, that kind of comes off as a load of hooey. And if I used postmodern incorrectly throughout this video, well, I didn't care much for the humanities classes in college and remembered just long enough to pass the test. After the classes, I would dump that information and make room for things that would actually help me in my career. Now, before I go into why I hate this movie and the classes that it glorifies, I need to talk about how hypocritical it is. This movie is about a teacher in the 1950s that teaches art history and rejects the conventions of good art and bad art, and also the traditional gender roles of women in the 1950s, and challenges her students to challenge the status quo. She stands as a force of opposition to the traditionalist school structure and administration in order to smash down barriers that hold back individualism. You know, very art hippie. Now a movie is widely considered to be a form of art. Having taken some video production classes, I know that there are some rules to making good video. For example, a good movie opens on a wide establishing shot so that the audience can see the kind of world that they are about to be subjected to. There's also the rule that a good video changes the camera angle every 5 to 10 seconds so that the audience doesn't get bored. There's also a rule that someone always has to be talking. I also know that some of the best movies out there don't follow these rules. A Clockwork Orange, one of the best movies ever made, opens up on a close-up of Alex, the protagonist. Birdman, the Best Picture winner for 2014, was shot to look like one continuous camera shot. There isn't a single word spoken in the first 10 minutes of 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's not like these rules can't be broken by a good director. Now, as I said, this movie is very good on a technical level. Every choice is very academically correct. This movie, a movie about appreciating the beauty of risk-taking and challenging conventional wisdom, sure doesn't do a lot to challenge conventional wisdom of movie making. I don't recall any long tracking shots, or unconventional angles, or experimental lighting, or an unconventional soundtrack for the movie it's trying to present itself as, or really anything of note. I guess the movie does open up on an extreme close-up of a typewriter, but opening up on an extreme close-up is one of the more safe rules to break. That's more of a rule for movies with a lot of action, not so much soft period pieces. I just find it kind of funny that a movie that paints itself as traditionalism is bad and experimentalism is good follows a very traditional approach to filmmaking without a lot of experimentation. It's also not like there aren't examples of the greats breaking the rules to take inspiration from. This movie came out in 2003. The complete works of Stanley Kubrick existed at this time. Pulp Fiction and its non-linear, non-conventional way of storytelling came out 9 years earlier. The People vs. Larry Flint was telling a very unconventional story about a very unconventional man using very unconventional methods just 7 years earlier. I'm just saying the movie doesn't practice what it preaches when it comes to appreciating artists that challenge the norms and took inspiration to make something that's better than the status quo. And now it's time for Why I Hate Lit Analysis class with Pokematic, the part of the show where Pokematic comes out and explains why he hates lit analysis class. I didn't like English lit class in high school or the lit analysis classes in college. The way we had to analyze and critique classic pieces of literature was a bad experience. I made videos detailing why back when I was in high school, and those videos are still live up on the Daily Motion channel. You might find this strange, considering that I run a podcast where I primarily talk about and review and critique movies and TV shows. But you see, there is a difference between what I do on my channel and what I had to do in those classes. You see, on the Pokematic podcast and my reviews, I look at how the story is composed and how it's told, and how the characters develop and interact with each other, and if genre elements like comedy and drama work within the overall context of the movie or TV show, and if there are any noteworthy technical aspects, good or bad. And in the end, I bring it all together to say if what I'm reviewing is good or not. You know, the things that the common man cares about when it comes to a piece of media. In these lit classes, though, we didn't do any of that. Instead, we read books that our teachers told us was good, spent hours analyzing the symbols and historical significance of the books, and didn't go into the reason why they're good beyond symbols and history. Oh, and don't you dare say that these books are bad. That's blasphemy. You see, it's impossible for these classic pieces of literature to be considered bad, completely ignoring the fact that these characters are duller than bowling balls. The pacing is all over the place. The situations in these books are unrelatable and uninteresting, and the author's ability to paint a vivid picture is non existent. No, the book was written at some point in history, and the author references contemporary problems of the time that aren't relevant today. Therefore, that's why we're reading it today. Oh, and you need to write a paper about why this book is great once we finish it. And better follow these strict rules for writing papers, because there's nothing more important than following rules for writing that these authors don't follow. So what does this have to do with Mona Lisa's smile? Well, I was in class 50 years after this movie takes place. I can't help but look at the teacher and how she is dead set on tearing down the institution of objectivity to replace it with postmodern subjectivity, and get furious at the fact that my high school and college non-education was the result of her postmodern philosophies. You see, there's no such thing as objective good, it's all subjective. And let's ingrain that philosophy into the curriculum because the youth need to read the rantings of an emo kid just as much as they need to read the epic tale of Odysseus. Because a 50-year-old controversial book that's been artificially propped up by English teachers for 50 years is just as important as a story that has survived for 1,000 years solely by the fact that it's a good story. So now, instead of students gaining an appreciation for master wordsmiths like William Shakespeare and Mark Twain, they are repressing years of schooling because you insist that a Jackson Pollock paint rag is just as beautiful and important as the Sistine Chapel. Oh, but it doesn't stop there. You see, the teacher was going to teach the course material, the history and historical significance of various pieces of art for the entire class. You know, information that's relevant to an art history class. But the entire class has already read through all of the class material and knows all the answers. So the teacher gets creative and has her students look for deeper meaning in various pieces of art to learn something more about the art and ultimately about themselves. I guess that's understandable when you cover an entire semester's worth of material on the first day. All the students liked it, so naturally the teacher's going to do this again next year. And it would go on to become part of the main curriculum until it became the entire curriculum to the point where we don't even ask, is this good on a base level? Why are we reading Brighton Beach Memoirs? It's just the story of a sexually confused teenager that lusts after his first cousin. Why is this considered scholarly literature? Which brings us to my final main point. The teacher wanted to break down barriers and challenge what is and is not considered scholarly. Because to the postmodern eye, a book about a cautionary tale about an overreaching government whose political commentary is still relevant today is just as important as a book about a man who abuses his wife and gave her Stockholm Syndrome. But when it comes to books with pictures, suddenly there are objective standards that must be followed. You see, I argue that manga is literature too. We can find a lot of the same symbols and lessons from manga that we do in contemporary books, just with much better stories. What is The Electric Tale of Pikachu? Well, it's a coming of age story about a boy that's in over his head on a crazy adventure, complete with wild and crazy characters, and a love interest that he has no shot with, and another sort of love interest that is sort of his backup. And in the end, he learns that he's not an adult yet. I think that was basically what we're supposed to take away from Catcher in the Rye. And this book has super powerful monsters in it. In Kiba, there is an arc about a small town that, through an overreaching government, guilt by association laws, and a misunderstanding, ends up killing half the population of the citizens and ends on a downer. That's essentially what Arthur Miller's The Crucible was. And this has real magic. Well, I haven't actually started Please Twins yet. The blurb on the back makes it sound like it's essentially Brighton Beach Memoirs, only not as creepy because this guy he doesn't know which one of these girls is a sister and which one's just a cute stranger. Believe it or not, I actually convinced my 12th grade English teacher to let me read Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Adventures for my independent reading project. At first, she told me to find a different book. But after telling her that the main character is an allegory for how man is disconnected from nature, and he goes on this hero's quest to find and meet God, and is accompanied by this teenage girl who has to essentially become this boy's mother. And all of this happens in chapter 1. I was able to read the complete manga set for my independent reading project. And of all the presentations, everyone agreed that mine was the best. Why? Because I was able to connect to the material on a level that no one else was able to. Because even though they were reading classics like Moby Dick and Frankenstein, they just weren't able to connect with the material. Me, on the other hand, I know what it's like to be a hyperactive, impulsive boy that when he puts his mind to something, he's not going to stop until he gets distracted by something shiny. Unlike my classmates who presented things all, hi, I'm Dr. Frankenstein. I thought I could play God and create life, but the abomination that I made isn't life. I thought that my creation was the monster, but ultimately I learned that I was the monster. Me, on the other hand, I came running into the room, jumped on top of my teacher's desk, exclaiming, "Hi there! Want to hear my life story?" Unlike everyone else, it just told the class who the main character was. I showed them. I gave an unforgettable presentation to a book that I connected to on a deep, deep level because I challenged the institutional status quo. But no, manga isn't worth literary analysis. I guess all books are equal, just some are more equal than others. So you want to fight the man, bring down those institutions, and teach some art that is widely considered by objective institutions to be bad. Okay, I can dig that. So, I got some manga over here, and wait, what's this? We can't read manga because that's not real literature, and we need to respect the curriculum? You are now the institution that you sought to destroy! There's also a point in Mona Lisa's Smile where the teacher says, let's analyze some advertisements and what they say about our culture. We did that too in my English class. But my teacher didn't really know what she was talking about, though. She said that fear was the most effective form of advertising. Advertisements are meant to scare you into buying the products. Here are a bunch of advertisements that use fear. Now write me a paper about if fear is a good way to advertise. Now, as a fan of Billy Mays and real-time pitch demonstration advertisements, with ambitions of being the next Billy Mays, I decided that I was going to take an alternative viewpoint and say that no, there are more effective ways of advertising a product than using fear. I couldn't articulate my points very well because I was only ever presented with one point of view and didn't end up doing that great on the paper. But after taking a marketing class in college, taught by someone that actually knows a thing or two about marketing, I learned that no, fear is a last resort when it comes to selling a product because people react far more positively to sex, humor, and real-time demonstrations. Something that I knew on a subconscious level that I just couldn't bring up to a conscious level. Bad and misguided conclusions like that were common in the media units. While the teacher in Mona Lisa Smile probably analyzed a lot of advertisements in her free time and thought to herself, now what does this say about our society? And came to her conclusions firsthand. My teachers were probably just regurgitating what they heard in their college classes, and maybe were trying to get us to reject modern forms of media in an effort to make us take on and want to seek out more classical pieces of media. You are now the institution that you sought to destroy! There's also a plot thread in the movie where the teacher wants her students to make their own decisions and not be tied down to the housewife expectations laid out for them by society. Only to be completely taken aback when one of her students chooses to be a housewife instead of a lawyer. You know, the whole don't let society make the choice for you. You make your own choices. And oh, wait, no, you don't really want to do that. That's just society brainwashing you into thinking that you want to do it. Now, go make the choice that I made. Hypocrisy. But that's a can of worms I really don't want to get into right now. The saddest thing of it all is that I like analyzing works of art. It's why I review movies, TV shows, and anything else that interests me. It's fun to look at a piece of media and just go, now what makes this good and what makes this bad? It gives people a deeper appreciation for media and helps people make their own. But it wasn't until I watched the Nostalgia Critics review of The Last Airbender in my third year of college did I actually see how fun it can be to review and criticize a piece of art. I mean, I made plenty of reviews before then, but I didn't know what it meant for a movie to be good or bad. Just a subjective, I liked it or I didn't. Nowadays, I'm much better spoken at what makes something good or bad. Or in cases like the Emoji Movie and DC Superhero Girls, why their failures make them so beautifully bad. And these are skills that I should have learned in my formal education. But no, instead we're going to talk about how when the author said sword, he really meant penis. Yep, that was an actual lecture in my college Russian myths and tales class. And this wasn't the only time. One time when we were doing small group discussions, we had to try to figure out what the symbolism was when the author was talking about a spoon. I said, it's probably a penis. I don't have any real reason for it. It's just that everything in this class is a penis. Sure enough, it was a penis. Someone, please tell me how this $5,000 humanities requirement is going to help me in the real world. This has been Pokematic signing off, and bye-bye. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the end card. And wait. Don't click away just yet. The end card is more than me just saying, hey, be sure to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe real quick. No, I do a little post show with my end cards. So you can get a little bit of extra information about what you just watched and a little bit behind the scenes or just some extra thoughts that I had that just didn't fit into the normal video. So yeah, this is a video that was really, really great to get off my chest. This is a video that I have kind of been wanting to make for years and years. When I was in high school, these were all feelings that I felt. I really didn't like the English classes, and I made a video years and years ago, 7 or whatever years ago, that is still up on the Daily Motion channel. That was me ranting about English class and how dumb some of the symbolism and concepts that we were doing were, but unfortunately the video didn't export properly and half the video didn't render, and unfortunately all the master files got corrupted, so I wasn't able to re-edit it, recut it, and re-upload it. So yeah, it's a little bit of lost media right there, but doing it now, it's really good that I did this as a articulate adult that has experience now saying what I mean and getting it out on paper and in video form and being able to convey what I'm thinking in a way that's like actually academic-ish. Because when I was in high school, it's yeah, I'm being presented with all these ideas of this is great, this is great. There's no real reason for why it's great though. We're just telling you that it's great. And yeah, it wasn't until I started watching some online critics that I actually say, oh, so that's how I'm supposed That's how I can say that this is good or this is bad. That's how I can say with some objectivity of why something is bad and why something is good. And it's something that I've really kind of wanted to do for a long time, but I did repress those memories so much that I just couldn't remember it. I wanted to revisit this topic, but it's just like I don't remember all the reasons that I hated it. I know that I did, but I just can't really remember why because it was just such a bad experience. But watching Mona Lisa smile, it brought all that back. It reminded me of all the things. Just seeing that kind of classroom environment just brought it all back for me. And as I said, technically speaking, the movie is pretty good. It's just that what the movie stands for, I just can't stand. And for all the reasons of, yeah, this might have been awesome and revolutionary and maybe a good idea back in the 50s, but it's a horrible idea now, 50 years later, 60 years later, whenever. It just didn't work. It doesn't work. And it's I feel like I got robbed of my education, my ninth through 12th grade and that one humanities class in college. So yeah, it felt really good to finally get this done because this is the video, the way that I made the points. This is something that my 16 and 17-year-old self could only dream of. No, I couldn't even dream of it. I could maybe get some sort of weird idea of someone just laying down the facts and explaining why what we're doing is so bad in a way that I just could not explain. I got in arguments with my teachers not once, a couple of times. I think maybe up to like 5 or 6 times, or like really kind of got heated in debate and nothing was happening because it's just like neither of us could explain our points very well. And me being the student, yeah, it's not like I could really fully say you're full of it, but whatever. But now that I know how to argue a little bit better and explain my points of view and say, oh, here is why Catcher in the Rye is an absolutely horrible book. Here's why Brighton Beach Memoirs is not worth our time. Because now I know of some points of reference. I can explain here's problems with the story structure, here's problems with the character development, and yeah, and I'm so glad that I was able to finally do this, and I'm thankful that Mona Lisa Smile brought back some of those ideas because, yeah, I repressed those memories. When I said that students had been repressing years of school, that was me because I repressed those ideas. I wanted to come back and revisit this, but I just couldn't remember all of my talking points. But Mona Lisa Smile, it brought it back, and even when I tried looking up like a course syllabus online for some of my old college, high school classes, it's like they're reading books now that we didn't read, and they're not reading books that we had to read. And they're not reading some of the worst books. Like they're not reading Brighton Beach Memoirs or A Streetcar Named Desire or even A Raisin in the Sun. I mean, A Raisin in the Sun wasn't super bad, but it's not like it was really worthwhile. It was just a family gets down on their luck. They use their grandfather's life insurance money to buy a house, and bad things happen. But it's not a bad play per se. It's just not something that's really spectacular that I don't think is really worth our time in English class. Yeah. And maybe some of you on YouTube might be realizing that Pokematic videos, why am I uploading it here? I thought that you didn't upload your Pokematic videos to YouTube. You kept that for the other platforms. And generally speaking, that's true. But with this video in particular, this is something where it's like, it's a critique and an analysis. It's something where I had to dig deep into sort of the more Catholic controversy side of me to say, here are the various different problems that I have with high school and college level literature analysis classes. And but at the same time, it's like the ranting and the comedic effect and the expression and exaggerations and whatnot. That's all Pokematic. That level of rage, that was Pokematic. So it's like it's kind of a joint feature right there, and that's why I'm making this exception and uploading it to the YouTube channel as well. So this is one of the few videos I'm going to be uploading to all of the platforms that I upload to, that I can still upload to. I mean, Blip and VidMe are gone, so I can't upload to those anymore. And not sure if this really, Break probably wouldn't accept this. They didn't accept the Stardew Valley video, but whatever. Now I'm gonna do the normal end card things, but don't click away yet because I got some bonus features afterwards. So you might want to stick around for those. So normal end card things. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like, upvote, a buzz, or whatever you need to do to show your love. And if you want to see more from me, I normally don't do this, but I do review movies, TV shows, and whatever else interests me. So consider subscribing. Recommend if you want to see more Pokematic stuff, you gotta check out some of the other websites that I subscribe to, such as Dailymotion, Metacafe, Bitlanders, BitChute, Minds, and DTube. So be sure to check me out there too. Might link some description videos and my various different pages there. So be sure to check those out. And I also have a Patreon page. So for just $1 a month, you can get your name up there in that little Patreon credits section. But if Patreon's not your thing, I've also got a Bitcoin faucet rotator where you can get free Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin, Dashcoin, and Bitcoin Cash while at the same time helping support the show. And 9 years of content. Yeah, that's really kind of starting to sink in for me that I've been doing this for almost 9 years now. And I'm going to recommend, I don't know, I'll recommend the original high school English class rant. So you can see how much I've grown since then and how much more expressive and whatnot there is. And just see where it cuts off because it cut off right when I was about to make the point about manga. And the point about manga was like the best point in that video where I was talking about how it's just like so much of all these classic pieces of literature are amazing and so worth our time, but we can't read manga because it has pictures. But I also filmed that in like the summer between 11th and 12th grade, so I didn't have the independent ring assignment where I read Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Adventures, and that really did happen, and it was the best presentation that there was. And when I talked to ran into my old 12th grade English teacher 4 years later, I brought that up, and she's like, "Yeah, that was a really, really entertaining presentation, and no one else has done anything comparable to that." And then an additional 2 years later, when I went to see Pokemon I Choose You, the movie, I wore the Hereta costume that I wore to play Hereta in the presentation, and I showed it to her. I connected with her on Facebook and said, "Oh man, even though I didn't jump on the desk, I still enjoyed the movie." And she thought that was pretty funny. So yeah, you can check out the old high school English class rant video that is corrupted and lost in a bit, sort of, through the website, which is available and where I keep up to date on all my past stuff because I'm on so many different platforms. It's hard to really update and re-upload everything when I join a new site. So it's all available right there on the website. So be sure to check that out. And thanks for making it all the way to the end. And enjoy some bonus features. Enjoy some bloopers and the way and a little supercut of how I started off all the videos so that the camera would pick up on the audio. And I'll start this off with a deleted scene, a little thing that I wanted to include. I wrote it in there, but I just decided that it just didn't fit in with what I was going about. It just broke up the pacing. And as a film critic and person that talks about pacing, I just didn't want to halt the pacing just to make this little joke and little rant on Catcher in the Rye. So, hope you enjoy. Bye-bye. Is Holden a well-written character that makes for a good narrator? Who cares about that? But did you notice that Holden wears a red hunting hat, but not all the time? I wonder what J.D. Salinger was trying to say with that. He likes hats. I like hats. Why do I wear a black trilby? Because one day I tried one on and said, I look good. Why does he wear it some of the time and not all the time? Because hunting hats get hot. And it's cold in New York in the wintertime. I've worn hunting hats inside. It gets really, really hot. So I take it off. That's why Holden took it off. Why'd he wear it outside? Because it gets really cold outside in New York. Why didn't he take it off when he was in the cab or whatever? Because it's probably cold in the cab. Now, can we get to the fact that Holden cannot stay on topic? I couldn't articulate my points very well because I was only ever presented with one side of the argument, and that's my phone. I gave, yeah, Tony Dog, through an overreaching government, misunderstations. What's a misunderstanding? No, the book was written at some point in history, and the officer, the officer wrote that. No, the book was written at some point in history, and the officer. Why do I keep saying officer? It's author. The situations are uninteresting and it's unrelatable and uninteresting. I made videos. I didn't care much for the humanities classes in college. The people versus Larry Flint. The people versus Larry. Why do I keep wanting to say Very Flint? Or in cases like the Emoji Movie or DC Supergirls, DC Superhero Girls. Now, as a fan of Billy Mays and real-time demonstration pitch art I screwed up that line.